They call themselves
Mariko.
They are hackers on steroids, treating the web like a real-life video game.
Beginning of the 21st century. Terrorism. Terrorists.
Wipe out the terrorists.
Terrorist attack! Vice President is...
The end will be decided.
Deep Freeze
is an action game released in 1999 for the PlayStation, and you can probably guess what it's about. The first and only game released by the elusive Talon Inc. Deep Freeze is at first glance a fairly standard late 90s Japanese game. You've got the biohazard camera angles, the level-based structure, the cinematic pretensions, and English teacher voice acting.
They're insane.
These are all familiar elements for the era, and there's plenty of games just like it, but I imagine few are as baffling and incoherent as Deep Freeze manages to be. The year is 2001 and it's terror o'clock. Our hero Jack Wired is part of an international anti-terrorist coalition named Interants, usually shortened to just Ants. Our first mission sees the reconstructed New York City plunged into chaos by the terrorist group Hephaestus, a word none of the game's cast members can spell correctly.
Hephaestus! Are you the leader of Hephaestus?
Hephaestus.
This is the analysis of Hephaestus on the computer.
They've stormed a skyscraper where the vice president is currently attending his son's wedding to do some nebulous evil thing. I'm not really sure. Their goals are not super specific. According to the intro, they want to integrate the world's wealth, whatever that means, and also to just randomly murder people in order to cleanse the earth. Of course, Interants is on the scene right away, and we get to review mission info and pick out a partner before heading in. The briefing screen is really nice. There's a full overview of the building and its many floors, map layouts, and the list of all key persons. There are 6 partners to choose from every mission, and I'd love for you to meet them. First up is the all-American duo of Harry and Maria. Next we have Sniper, whose weapon of choice is the handgun, followed by Sicily from Italy and Bagel from Israel.
It's a 35mm fireproof steel shutter!
Bagel here is actually the team's resident computer nerd hacker man, and gets the most characterization out of anyone.
Can you do it, Bagel?
We must give up.
Of course I pick him as my partner because I know what's good for me. We meet up with the Red Bulls infantry squad.
Phil, you were ordered to be here too?
I'm so glad we got together again.
Our collective mission is to make it to the hanging garden where the wedding was being held. It's a few floors up. The game then reveals itself as less of a Biohazard clone and more of an arcade shoot-'em-up playing out in a form totally unsuited for fast-paced action. It's got the score, the levels, the bosses, the end of mission ranks, the constant respawning waves of enemies, but also there's fixed camera angles and resource management and backtracking. The game's built-in lock-on should mitigate some of this, but it's highly unreliable. The game ends up as this bizarre fusion of opposing styles, constantly in friction with each other. But this hadn't become a problem quite yet, so first impressions were generally pleasant. I was far more preoccupied with the music, or the lack thereof. Have you noticed it? I didn't turn the volume down to get clearer audio or anything. The whole game is just like this. Now, there are some music tracks for the game's CG cutscenes and mission briefings, but that's it. The entire remainder of Deep Freeze is scored only by the sound of your footsteps and gunshots, and the endless electrical humming of its many nondescript villain hideouts. This game might as well take place in Lane's bedroom. This single detail makes the game feel so goddamn weird and empty that it's impossible to get over it. Are you hearing this? It's a 2-second-long loop of static that plays on repeat forever. This game sounds like my fucking voice recordings. And again, this is not some tactical squad simulator where you have to plan out your every move and take things slowly. This is a game that gives you double the points for taking out 2 terrorists with a single grenade. It feels like there should be some excited announcer yelling "Reload" every 3 seconds. There's nothing here that could potentially justify this absence of music. It's one of the weirdest things I've seen the game do in a long time. A cursory glance at the game's staff reveals nothing that could help to make sense of this. There is something strange though. The very first thing you see upon starting Deep Freeze are the words, "Yasushi Akimoto presents." Who the hell's that? Who is the bold auteur headlining this production? Well, let's see. Oh, he has a Wikipedia page. An English Wikipedia page. That's a new one for this channel. Oh, it turns out Yasushi Akimoto is the single most successful music producer in Japanese history. He single-handedly created some of the country's biggest idol groups, including AKB48. His absurdly huge list of accomplishments spans every medium in existence, with music usually being the focus. Some of his notable non-music works being the novel One Missed Call, which was later made into a film franchise by Takashi Miike. Akimoto was also the advertising producer for the Dreamcast, meaning he's the one who came up with that whole marketing angle of Sega as these fallen underdogs, working hard to redeem themselves with a sick new console. He's worked in video games since the 80s, also mostly on music, but he did write the concept for the Famicom platformer Banana Prince. He wrote and produced some insert songs for a couple of games during the 90s. None of which were Deep Freeze. I have absolutely no clue why such an important music man decided to produce a game that doesn't have any, but there you go. Something I also noticed was the game's writing being credited to Office Crescendo, a well-known TV and film production company. I honestly can't wrap my head around this. There's a lot of entertainment industry big shot crossover going on here, and yet the game itself does not feel prestigious or fancy in the slightest. With something like RMJ The Mystery Hospital, you could tell what they were doing right away and the polish and effort were very obvious. I really can't see it here though. And lastly, Motosada Mori worked on Deep Freeze as the military advisor in one of his very few non-Metal Gear game industry jobs. I imagine he just gave Talon a few quick notes and then fucked off to go work on MGS2. You know, this actually just made everything even more confusing.
If you're so slow, we'll eliminate all enemies ourselves. That's all.
Okay, let's hurry.
It will sadden you to learn the entire Red Bull squad gets killed off-screen right after this cutscene. A surviving member warns us of the dangers ahead. This is the part where things started to grate for me, and not just because I keep running into Bagel's grenades. The game gives you 3 weapons: a handgun, a shotgun, and a submachine gun. My favorite is a handgun because the majority of shots actually hit the enemy when you use it. But since you're constantly surrounded by enemies shooting at you from all sides, you'll need something strong enough to let you stay on top of enemy numbers and not get overwhelmed. Except it's a coin toss as to whether or not you'll hit anything, so it feels like there's no good counter to the game's trickery. You'll just keep getting shot at and knocked down and stabbed until you use a stun grenade to give everyone cerebral palsy and then shoot them to death, which I found to be the single best strategy to get through the levels. It's like a race between you and the game to see who can pile the most bullshit on the other. Using a service elevator on floor 57, we make our way to the former wedding venue. In the kitchen, we find a dead terrorist with his throat cut open. Jack is very puzzled by this, probably because someone got to him before we did. After a big shootout in the church we rescue what few attendants are left, revealed to us that the vice president and his son were taken upstairs. Let's keep going. Oh my god, it's sci-fi door _ whatever the fuck. My favorite sound in the world. Now working overtime in this game.
Here you are, you UN ants. I'll waste you all.
We don't actually fight this guy right now, despite the dialogue implying as much. Instead, he spawns a group of regular enemies and disappears, the resulting fight nearly making me quit the game in frustration. Mostly due to the stun locking, but the guys dropping out of thin air didn't help my mood either. I also noticed this while writing the script, but the big guy's cutscene summoning move is actually just an attack animation from his future boss fight. You can see him awkwardly charging forward at nothing here. I swear to god they made this game in like 2 months. Our path to the hostages gets blocked off by a suicide bomber. We'll have to improvise by turning this crane on, and then using it to break our way into the owner's room from the roof. Inside we meet Phobos and Deimos, the 2 leaders of Hephaestus. And no, the Greek theming here has no meaning whatsoever.
You're brave. So, everything is up to you.
I have authority.
You're the justice. I've seen such people before.
I know all this dialogue is in English, but a part of my brain still feels like this is in Japanese. I think it might be impossible to narrate this game in a way that does it justice. I hope just showing you the raw footage is enough to convey my disbelief. The boss fights in Deep Freeze are very faithful to the rest of the game, in that they make me feel like there's a gas leak in my house. It seems the only way to properly get through them is to use your partner as a meat shield to draw aggro, which I couldn't do here since Bagel was instantly pulverized. Our first boss has his one attack where he stuns with a shockwave and then charges at you. Curiously, his his charge has very low range, so he rarely ever hits me, only managing to crash into his friends like bowling pins. The enemy adds during this fight are exclusively the knife-wielding types that can knock you down. I think they're supposed to set you up for the boss to body slam you while you're on the ground, but this happened only once in all my attempts. So I reloaded the game before the crane part, made sure Bagel didn't lose too much health on the way there, and then just kept the boss on a shotgun stun loop until death. Thank you.
You! What's your name?
Nay.
This is the girl who disguised herself as a terrorist in order to kill Phobos. She's also the one behind that corpse we found in the kitchen. Naturally, we snatch her up and make her a part of the team. She's now the 6th and final partner.
Brother! Is Mom okay? What if she's hurt? What if she failed to
Shut your mouth!
The voice artistes are really giving it their all here.
Jack Wyatt.
Stage 2 involves Interants getting their plane shot down while flying over the Pacific, lured into a trap by falsified info. At least I think that's what happened. I know our pilot has been kidnapped and we need to get him back and all, but I was really hoping I could enjoy these natural forest sounds a little longer before being thrown back into the grey buzzing void. I've neglected to mention that you can actually issue commands to your partners. There's 3 of them, one for staying close to you, one for staying behind or maybe providing cover, and one that powers them up by taking their health. Commands are selected by hovering over them and then letting go of the button, so you may very well pick it by accident and be confused as to why your partner just lost a bunch of health and is now a Super Saiyan. Of course there's no sound to go along with the power-up animation, because this game was made by John Cage. In this state, your partner is briefly invincible and attacks not by shooting but by rolling into enemies and dropping grenades everywhere. It's pretty useful, especially when partners have their own healing items they can use. There's basically no downsides to it, and I don't think I could have beaten the game without it. As you can see here, Bagel heroically gave his life for the cause while fighting the first boss, and now his status is marked as serious. This is a pseudo-permadeath state, where he can still be picked for missions but will have reduced HP in all of them. I believe this is enough to diagnose Deep Freeze with acute mechanical schizophrenia. It plays almost exactly like a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but wants to be a Biohazard-style cinematic action game, but also does some tactical squad management stuff on the side. At least one of these elements should probably have been trimmed down or axed entirely, since the execution clearly wasn't working out. I'm not trying to say Deep Freeze commits some grave sin against the gameplay god or whatever. I just want to cover all bases of critique since this video is probably the first and last time anyone will ever take this game seriously. It's not even alone in this niche anyway. There's a few other games that try to do this exact thing to varying degrees of success. I think its heart is in the right place, and its many shortcomings certainly aren't from a lack of trying. The second mission presents an interesting twist, since you don't have a map for the first half of it. Once you're able to contact Mission Command, they give you 20 minutes to rescue the pilot and escape, before they launch an airstrike on the island. There's a brief interlude where we fight Voldo from Soul Calibur, and Harry proves himself to be an excellent partner thanks to his shotgun. Wow, he said all that?
No!
What does Hephaestus want?
You are going to die. It has nothing to do with you.
Now with our pilot in tow, we can escape by boat, after dying to the boss a few more times, and running back to get Harry and do the whole meat shield strategy once again. This is becoming a problem. Hey, check this out. Upon reaching this briefing screen, I just put my controller down and Walkman monkeyed for a good 5 minutes. It was literally music to my ears. It made me wish I understood the briefing so I could properly immerse myself in the moment. Of course, this is still Deep Freeze, so the game threw me right back into the dryer.
Shoot! It doesn't work. Shoot! It doesn't work. Shoot! It doesn't work.
Mission 3, from what little I can gather, is about a sudden Hephaestus assault on the game's equivalent of the FBI. Jack is caught off guard, with no team to back him up and only a pistol to his name. The objective, once again, is to rescue the bureau chief and escape with your life. You see, normally I'd have 3 special items to choose from: grenades, stun grenades, and medkits. We don't have access to those in this mission. What we do have are pistol clips, which are dropped by dead enemies. Our ammo count actually matters here. Most enemies go down in 3 or 4 shots. That's not bad until you remember all the lock-on accuracy issues and the aggressive enemy response. Needless to say, I rolled past almost everything in this level. Again, they tried. I can't say this isn't a cool idea. A mission where you're all alone and being hunted down, with limited resources at your disposal, feels very natural given the game's many inspirations. But once again, it fails to cross the proverbial finish line. I still can't help but admire the game's willingness to try conveying all these different action movie scenarios. Well, we couldn't get to the chief in time, but we do find his daughter who mysteriously sounds like a 25-year-old.
Ma'am, killed Dad.
This ma'am entity was mentioned by Deimos earlier in the first mission. The girl follows us through the rest of the level, but it's not an escort mission. She has no life bar or anything. She just hangs back and watches me get my ass kicked. Going up into a vent with the girl, we come across our cartoon villains as they're finally joined by Ma'am, the true leader of Hephaestus. Ma'am is a wheelchair-bound elderly woman who mysteriously sounds like a 25-year-old.
We can hide our intention behind the junk.
What they're doing here is stealing data on a military weapon called the Spear of Judgment, an orbital laser which they'll use to wipe out humanity according to Ma'am's wishes. This data was sent back to their home base, which is where the 4th and final stage takes place. There isn't much to say about it. It's very short and there's no gimmicks like the previous 2 stages. Here's the final boss fight with Deimos, where the game really outdoes itself. In a way. Sure, give him 6 invisible rocket turrets. Give him dodge rolls while you're at it. Give him a Shoryuken. Who gives a shit? I beat him by putting Harry on super mode and having him maul Deimos like a pit bull. Here's some more pseudo-English dialogue.
Taking all human beings with your suicide?
Those human beings who can only kill each other to survive made me crazy.
This is the point where the game decided to expose me. You see, if you play Deep Freeze on easy mode like I did, the game will abruptly end after this cutscene. Deimos will pick Ma'am up and jump from the balcony with her. After the credits, you'll get a spooky scene with the Spear of Judgment getting ready to fire. You can only access the game's true ending by playing on normal mode, a frankly absurd stipulation given what the game is like. In the true ending, Phobos breaks in and kills both Deimos and Ma'am. He never had any interest in the old lady's death wish to begin with, and will instead use the spear to rule the world by force. I've never seen an evil terrorist group so confused about its own goals. It's kind of awesome. Ney also joins the party to give us her life story.
When I was 10 years old, I was appointed to become an executor of the hostages. But I later on knew the hostages I shot were my parents, whom they said were dead long ago.
That was one of the best shows I've ever seen.
If you're a real gamer, then you get to have a nice little epilogue, where you follow Phobos into his ship for a final battle, set to some calming boiler room ambience. Nothing could be more fitting. As easy as this game is to bully, I can't say I hated my time with it. It's a very weird thing, how it feels a little too creative and expensive to fully qualify as Kusoge, while also having some strong unfinished beta build energy and borderline broken gameplay. It's a game I would recommend to those who can only feel something when being subjected to the cruel chaos of vintage esoteric Asian software. I still don't really know what to make of Deep Freeze other than being glad I played it. In the dark future of 2035, everything is under control of the ruthless megacorporation Zex Weisheit, who rose to power after developing a new powerful substance to fix the world's energy crisis 2 decades earlier. By monopolizing this new resource called Emethel, they became a scientific titan, immensely powerful and wealthy enough to acquire and integrate all their business rivals. As it turns out, Emethel was being sourced from the ruins of an ancient civilization buried deep beneath the sea. The technology these ancient humans left behind was taken by Zex, and all evidence of their existence was erased. The ancients possessed incredibly durable and nearly immortal bodies. In 2025, Ashley Arquette assumes the position of Zex CEO and conducts a dreadful experiment. In the hopes of giving modern humans the same abilities these ancients once had, Zex develops the Shio virus from their cells and unleashes this pathogen upon the coastal city of Freighter Hill. Over 30% of the city's population died from infection. By painting themselves as the saviors, Zex was able to take full control of Freighter Hill, buying up land and developing research facilities to recover and study the few enhanced humans that survived infection, as well as covering up their massacre. Crisis City is a game where you press square to make stuff blow up. Crisis City, not to be confused with City Crisis, Crisis Beat, Time Crisis, Disaster Day of Crisis, or Incredible Crisis, is every game you've ever thought about making when you were 12. Much like Deep Freeze, Crisis City also has 3D arcade gameplay with static backgrounds. It also has a big dramatic story full of voice acting. It can also get very awkward and frustrating and incomprehensible. Still, I think Crisis City is considerably better at bringing all these elements together, and all the weird broken shit is much easier to stomach as a result. It's a proper arcade game for one. Stages are short and linear, with some very appreciated checkpoints at boss fights. Everyone's really squishy, including you. You pick your character, die a few times getting the hang of things, learn the routes for every stage. It's all basically entertaining if not particularly complex. You press X to lock onto enemies and square to fire. All 4 reviews of Crisis City on the internet mention the lock-on, because the game is basically unplayable without it. Circle makes you roll and triangle throws grenades. The shoulder buttons let you strafe and crouch. So, no big deal, right? It's a standard 90s Japanese game with arcade gameplay and a dark cyberpunk OVA backstory. Well, I'm afraid not. It does make sense on the outside, but after playing all of it, I think Crisis City more resembles something like Death Crimson or Shogun Action, intentionally absurd quote-unquote bad games, meant to be ridiculous and get a rise out of people through insane difficulty and bizarre random humor. This game feels like a Kaizo ROM hack of itself, and yet is still dead serious in its story and presentation. All of the game's 7 characters have their own intros, endings, and battle dialogue performed by a cast of well-known veteran voice actors. And yet, this is still a game with an extra mode where they load 20 enemies into a tiny room, intentionally murdering the PlayStation's frame rate for the funny. To be clear, I don't see this as some awkward tonal clash or a failure on the devs' part. I think it's incredibly amusing, and they probably thought the same. In fact, I liked this game enough that I went out of my way to try machine translating most of the text in it, out of sheer curiosity, just so I could get a better grip on the story and tone. It did a good enough job with that, but stuff like the Megacorp's name is totally up in the air. I have multiple translations of it, and I have no idea which one is correct. Feel free to call me gay in the comments if you spot any mistakes. Anyway, Ralph was tormented. That incident half a year ago was still seared vividly into his mind. More specifically, the incident where Randy, his best friend and fellow officer, suddenly turned on him, aiming for his life, under the orders of Ashley Arquette, the CEO of Zex, and none other than Ralph's half-brother. Their father, the former Zex chairman, took note of Ralph's enhanced physical abilities after surviving the Freighter Hill incident and sent him to a special training facility on the moon in order to hone his fighting abilities and turn him into a super soldier for the company. But after discovering the horrific nature of Zex's human experiments, Ralph turned his back on them. His rebellion cost him everything. Now here he stands after gunning down the only man he ever saw as a true comrade and being marked for death. He has no choice but to declare war on the company and his own bloodline, vowing to kill Ashley no matter what. Cool, right? Unfortunately, I wasn't really able to get in the mood, considering my emulator breaks half the music in this game for whatever reason. The stage songs are fine, but all the menu and intro music just loop their first second forever. I feel like I've been cursed. At this rate, the next game I play is gonna have its music swapped out for snuff film audio. Anyway, here's the game. It's fine. It's loud. Pretty fun even when you can't tell what's happening, which is almost always. Once again, setting a fast-paced action game inside these static pre-renders proves to be a bad idea. Playing Crisis City sometimes feels like observing an ant farm when the perspective changes so often and so strangely. What are we even doing here?
侵入者とはお前のことか、ラルフ・ホプキンス。なぜ特殊工作員の貴様がここに？
目障りだ。うせろ。ここは爆破する。それが俺の反逆ののろしだ。
Alright, a boss. Cool, let's go. Oh, never mind. That fight was actually on the longer side, believe it or not. Next up on Ralph's list is the parking lot level, which lays bare the two things Crisis City loves the most: car crashes and explosions. Every level in this game features one or the other, sometimes both. The game even goes to the trouble of rendering the dead innocent civilians flying out the car windows. There's a surprising amount of collateral damage in general. The level where you break into Seg's headquarters lets you immediately kill two bystanders by blowing up an enemy robot next to them. One way of slightly mitigating this game's chaos is to crouch by pressing R2. Crouching means at least half of all enemy projectiles will just fly over your head. I wouldn't say this is OP though. You'll still die a lot, usually for reasons you can't discern. It's very useful during boss fights. And yes, if you haven't noticed it yet, all boss fights in this game are against the other playable characters, starting and ending with some voiced dialogue between those involved. These are as chaotic as anything else in the game, but are mostly incredibly easy, some of them lasting not even 10 seconds. The game's last two bosses are fully original, and they're easily the worst part of the game. The second worst part, though, is Stage 6. This is where the game stops laughing with you and starts trying to ruin your life. This single stage damn near doubled my playtime from all the retries my first time through. The way it's designed is nothing short of sadistic. Stage 6 goes like this. The first room holds a trio of robot enemies so ridiculously strong that destroying each of them takes around 100 rounds from Ralph's pea shooter plus a few grenades for good measure. You can either crouch down and make yourself invincible and then mash square so much your thumb goes numb, or do the smart thing and just roll past them into the next room, which you can do because this game was made in 3 months. The second room has a near infinite swarm of drones coming from the 10 spawners in the wall. It is possible to destroy all of them, but it takes so long I prefer just running along the sides while tanking the damage. And speaking of that, the third room pits you against a single enemy, and I'm not really sure what it is. It's got one move, and it's to charge forward at you. Hold it back with your grenades, but try not to use all of them. After it's been destroyed, it'll fly at you in a kamikaze attack, dealing unavoidable damage just in time for the fourth and final room. This time, there's 8 of those spongy robots. Once you kill the one guarding the door, another will take its place. This is where grenades are useful. Trying to do this legit will almost certainly result in a timeout, so don't bother. Just crouch down and focus on the door guys. Finally reaching Ashley's office, we confront his robotic assistant, Nimbus. Nimbus really enjoys dodging and running off screen and getting stuck behind pillars and statues. We take a secret elevator down to what I assume is an ancient human tomb to settle the score once and for all. Ashley's boss fight could have come right out of Deep Freeze. There are 6 rocket obelisks around the arena. They don't shoot rockets so much as they just spawn explosions on top of you without rhyme or reason. This will probably kill you more than the actual boss. Ashley himself is surrounded by magic crystals for extra protection. He's armed with a sniper rifle that shoots bullets but also explosions, and you never know which one it's gonna be. The best way to beat Ashley is to break his AI and then keep him in an eternal dodge loop as you chip away at his health. If only Bagel were here. Upon finishing Crisis City, you're treated to a short epilogue of your chosen character, set to this ominous heartbeat noise, in sharp contrast to all the clown car bullshit I was just subjected to. Ralph's ending barely involves him at all. It instead concerns a report from 2039 by one Dr. Mueller, describing a last-ditch effort to extend humans' lifespans and evade extinction. The doctor describes meeting a young man about 4 years ago, who gave him a data pack concerning information on the Freighter Hill incident, and on the genetic mutations developed by those few who survived the massacre. By researching them, the Doctor hopes to understand the cause of their superhuman endurance, and use it to help secure mankind's future. It seems Ralph's revenge has gone as well as it possibly could have, all things considered. Good for him. Is a Secret Service agent working under Zex. She, along with her lover Scott, were assigned as security to an experimental cloning facility. The pair suddenly heard something from within the facility. Screams, explosions, people running in a panic. By the time they rushed inside, the central sector had already been engulfed in flames. A clone had gone berserk and escaped, killing dozens of Zex personnel, including Scott, who'd given his life to save Pamela. She was the only survivor. Before she could even grieve for him, she received new orders to apprehend or eliminate the escaped test subject. Pamela is a classic blonde femme fatale character. Those were quite popular in Japanese fiction around this time, Nina Williams from Tekken being the most obvious example. The character select for Crisis City is a liar. Do you see how it says difficulty when you hover over someone? There are 3 different routes in this game, titled A, B, and C, and all of them shuffle the game's first 3 levels around. Each character is then assigned a letter which can be seen in the select screen, so it has absolutely nothing to do with difficulty, and is instead a way of knowing who's going where. Ralph gets the robot factory stage first, Ewan gets the highway, Christy gets the parking lot, and so on. Characters do vary in difficulty though. As you can see from his stats, Ralph is your perfectly average main character guy. Pamela has the same stats as Ralph, but her weapon is a machine gun that has 90 bullets, as opposed to Ralph's pistol with 50. Each button press has a roughly 5-round burst from her. There's basically 0 downtime between shots. Unless I'm missing something, this makes her a straight upgrade over Ralph. All that matters in this game is how fast you can shoot people in the dick, and she's a pro with that. Pamela clearly has a change of heart somewhere along her story, given her decision to go after the company and the CEO like everyone else. I imagine the confrontation with the escaped subject is what triggers that change. Her ending talks about her being trapped in an endless emptiness. After destroying the corporation that gave and also took everything from her, she wanders the ancient undersea ruins before stumbling upon Scott's remains. Now transformed into a machine. A failed experiment or perhaps a living battery, fated to serve the company even in death. After laying Scott to rest and giving him a proper burial, Pamela simply disappears, leaving her current life behind, only to turn up 8 years later under a different name, now a pioneer in bioengineering, and part of the grand project to ensure humanity survival. This makes me think she teams up with Dr. Mueller from Ralph's ending, but I'm not sure. God only knows what the Crisis City canon is. Is a clone born from ancient human cells. He was the company's greatest success in replicating the extraordinary abilities of the ancients. All of this ends poorly, however, as we already know from Pamela's story. Ewan goes berserk, destroys the cloning facility, and escapes into the woods, where he is found by a police officer named Christy, who decides to take care of him for the time being. Ewan's memories are all gone save for one word: Zex. Guided by instinct, he sets out to discover who he really is and why he has such abnormal powers. He does this by screaming and crying and shooting people. Wow, he should go hang out with Takagi. Ewan is one of the game's fast but weak characters. He also has a 50-round pistol, but I think it shoots slightly faster than Ralph's. Ewan's story is my favorite because it almost fully realizes the game's potential. Nearly everyone he meets will accuse him of being a monster or in some way inhuman. He has no idea what he is or why these people are all trying to kill him. He becomes increasingly terrified of himself and the power he holds. His interactions with Pamela are genuinely kind of sad. He can't recall his rampage back at the cloning facility, but feels guilty for it anyway. As she cries bleeding out on the floor, Ewan apologizes for not remembering the incident, which led her here to begin with. He finally regains his memory after breaking into another cloning facility inside the Zex HQ and freaks out at Christy, who came here to retrieve him. A game as frenetic and explosive as this is actually a great fit for this kind of story. Playing it literally turns you into an out-of-control killing machine with no clue what's going on. Real animal I have become shit. I want an entire game like this. I want Shock Troopers, but it's a gory 3D game starring the entire cast of Galarians. I want a playable version of the Elfin Lead hallway scene. I'm sad this doesn't exist now. Ewan stands face to face with Ashley, the man behind the clone project that created him, and things go as expected. Ewan's ending scroll isn't a concrete character epilogue, but more of an abstract poem, detailing his state of mind and new path in life. From the cosmology of reality, he seeks to build a new theory, discovering the common thread within all things. A world that can be seen by the eyes of all humanity, and the hidden truths beyond it, so that people may become gentle. To create eyes that can perceive the truth of the universe. To discover the commonality in all things. From the perspective of all humankind. To reveal the hidden so that people may become gentle. Is a rogue police officer who chose to investigate the Zex clone facility incident on her own, after the company made sure to handle everything internally, keeping the police out of the loop. After finding an unconscious Ewan in the woods near the destroyed facility, she decided to take care of him until his memory returned. One day, he suddenly vanishes without warning, leaving behind a note bearing a single word: Zex. She was right. This incident is far from over, and it's up to her to discover the truth and rescue the missing boy before disaster strikes. Christie has an awesome design straight out of a classic Biohazard game. Her weapon is a shotgun with the baffling ammo capacity of 1. She's supposed to be a high defense, low speed character, but the ammo limit hurts her really bad. Everything in this game is so fidgety that the shotgun's huge spread isn't as helpful as you'd hope, and the constant reloading makes her a sitting duck. It sucks because none of this would matter that much if her gun just had a higher capacity. Hell, even 3 rounds would help. The last 2 boss fights were absolutely not made with slower characters in mind. Ashley's fight was especially painful, bordering on unbeatable, with the both of us reduced to blind firing at each other for 3 minutes. Crisis City does have its favorites, and Christie certainly isn't one of them. I still like her though. She's the most normal person in the cast full of weird edgelords. No deep motivations, aside from a desire to solve the case and get the bad guys. Her ending is equally lighthearted, describing her escaping by boat with Ewan as the destroyed Zex HQ sinks into the sea, and how the two of them then settled into a goofy sitcom life together, with Christie gaining full custody of Ewan. Her colleagues tease her about it, calling him her boy toy or live-in housekeeper. She just lets them talk. Both of them now share a small but genuine happiness together. Is a rogue soldier who launched a very violent one-man investigation into the collusion between the military high command and Zex. He was already on thin ice with his superiors after single-handedly destroying an entire battalion of Zex's fancy new humanoid weapons during a mock battle. So this was the perfect excuse to take matters into his own hands. Gerard is the strongest but also slowest character in the game. His weapon is a ridiculous rapid-fire grenade launcher, strong enough to make up for all his disadvantages. I have very little to say about Gerard. He's not related to anyone else in the cast, has the least to do with the larger plot, and the least characterization in general. He's a giant man with a giant gun, killing hundreds for trying to replace him with some pussy-ass robots. Perhaps this is all the result of some lingering numb flashback, who knows. This man is so utterly grug that his story ends with the phrase, "Unable to even savor his victory, Gerard simply gazed at the crumbling Zex building." Really sums it up. Alicia Taylor is a young survivor of the Frater Hill incident. Her parents succumbed to the infection, leaving her to spend much of her childhood in an orphanage. Eventually, she was adopted by Ruth Grant, a mysterious young man whom she grew to depend on as an older brother. Ruth was her whole world, so when he suddenly abandoned her to seek revenge on Zex, the company that destroyed her life and killed her parents, Alicia was devastated. For the sake of protecting her last remaining family, she picks up a weapon and steps into the fight to save her brother and perhaps herself. The manual remarks that Alicia's combat style is that of a phantom running across the battlefield, and they're not lying. She's the fastest character in the whole game, while also having the lowest health. But this actually didn't bother me all that much while playing as her. Her speed helps a lot in outpacing her weakness. Very fun to zip around the levels, unloading her tiny revolver on everyone, almost like a phantom or something. Alicia's actual personality is quite the contrast from her sad little sister backstory. I really enjoy her creepy deadpan acting, and how it constantly freaks the other characters out.
大丈夫。みんな殺すから寂しくないわ。え？危ない。
なんだこのプレッシャーは。
そう。じゃあ死んで。 るなら
Alicia's ending is another artsy poem like Yuan's. They even repeat many of the same lines, though hers opens with a line about liberating the sexual mind, whatever that means. A new stanza is added. By listening to everyone's stories, everything can be seen with new eyes. I think this hints at Alicia possessing some inner kindness beyond her painful past and cold exterior. The world may see her as a creepy anime murder girl, but I don't think of her as that. I think of her as a beautiful woman, and I'll never forget her. And last but not least... had been waiting for this moment. He closed his eyes and reflected on the path that brought him here. The death of his family, the young girl who'd met the same fate as him, and the truth behind the massacre. For 10 years, thoughts of revenge were all that kept him going. For that alone, he trained his mind and body, spun countless schemes, and secured a firm position within LeBlanc, a rival company of Zex. Ruth became an elite assassin commanding his own unit, biding his time until the fateful day he'd take revenge and slaughter all those involved in the Freda Hill tragedy. Ruth is an absurdly broken character. His hunting rifle has 20 rounds, fires super fast, and is strong enough to trivialize the entire game. Here's a clip of him killing Ralph in 2 whole shots. You can actually play as Ashley, the game's final boss, by inputting a cheat code in the character select screen, and Ruth still feels like more of a boss character. Sure, Ashley has his explosion rifle, but it's only got 1 round and he can't even run on top of that. Playing as Ruth almost feels like cheating by comparison. He cares so little about anything outside his mission, he will often shoot characters dead mid-dialogue.
お前が知る必要はない。死ね。うるさい。死ね。
He takes special joy in murdering Zex-affiliated characters like Pamela. Ruth, along with Ewan and maybe Alicia, really elevate this game by turning it into a violent OVA power fantasy. You really feel his desire to take one's revenge on Zex in retaliation for Freda Hill. Time to shoot while the iron's hot. Ruth's ending is another poem. It starts off much darker than the other 2. At the farthest reaches of the universe, what awaited Ruth was a reality of unbearable cruelty. Perhaps it was in response to the voice of that girl. Across the whole cosmos, the darkness of religion could no longer be stopped. It began to reflect itself everywhere. In his heart, sealed away, lay a truth of love. Complete, personal, absolute. Before repeating the other stanzas about revealing the hidden and discovering universal commonality, you really wouldn't expect this game to have esoteric spiritual character epilogues, but that's just part of what makes it so special. Nothing captures the spirit of Crisis City better than this extra mode. You unlock it after beating the game once. You pick your character and get into it. A few seconds later, you'll realize something is horribly wrong. A few more seconds and you'll realize nothing is wrong at all. In fact, everything is right where it should be. Every standard enemy now has the final boss's weapon. There's one screen and one level that gives you a flamethrower drone over your head, and then never again. Whereas people in the normal game get into cars and try to hit you, now they lift the car and run around with it. Of course they also randomly explode, but that's just a given at this point. It must have been a wild day at the office when they were making this. This is the developers bending the game as far as they possibly can without crashing it, entirely for their own amusement. Of course there's random people on fire, and the spinning man that catapults clones of himself into a nearby pillar when you hit him. The drones from the 5th level are now a bunch of salarymen flopping across the floor. I love this so much. This sense of humor almost feels ahead of its time. It's the kind of stuff you'd see in early internet Japanese parody games, or in some potato-quality Nico Nico upload. But amazingly, they did this in 1998 with their own original IP, just for fun. I just can't get mad at this game, no matter how often it tried my patience. Crisis City knows it's entirely too stupid to live, and yet still manages to be sincerely stylish and cool, despite a total lack of polish and restraint. I think it's wonderful.